Welcome to You Can't Break Us, the podcast sharing real stories of parental alienation and family court injustice. I'm your host, Kaylin Hawkinson. Each episode, I sit down with brave guests who open up about their personal journeys, the pain, the resilience, and the fight for justice. These stories are raw, real, and powerful because speaking out is how we break the silence and remind the world, you can't break us. Hi, Kelly. Thank you for being here today. I'm so excited to have you and hear about your story. So could you maybe start us off just where the alienation began?
Okay, so I've been trying to find the best place to start here because there's obviously so much that leads up to it, but that would take me forever
I
to
know.
obviously tell the story. So I want to get to the really good stuff. So I had been going through what I obviously know now as a spiritual awakening. I started going through it in 2005. I had been diagnosed with multiple autoimmune things. I had dysautonomia, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, and so my body was just breaking down. And the environment that I was in, I didn't really have a lot of support. I didn't have people that understood me. And if anything, I was really labeled as crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think anytime a woman is overloaded and she needs a community of help and support, she automatically gets labeled as
Yeah.
something negative. And so I was really struggling with that. And there was like a period of time leading up to the divorce that I just was struggling. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't feel like I could trust the healthcare system.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like there was enough support out there as far as me being a mother and being understood that I was, dealing with a lot of sickness. And so I'd spent about, 2005 to 2011. It was just like a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really got the answers that I was looking for. And I think at that point, my ex was just really tired of dealing with my sickness. He didn't understand it. We kept going to doctors. I had gone to multiple different places. And at that point, I think he really thought I was faking a lot of it, that I
Mm-hmm.
was just playing this victim role. And so I remember I'm trying to think of the exact day. I remember things kind of felt off, and he had taken my son to, it was a 4th of July celebration, and they were gone. My daughter was staying with her biological dad. She had been staying with him every other weekend and then summers. So we were already kind of on that schedule.
Yeah.
And he had gone to a 4th of July thing, and then he came home one night really angry, and he just packed up his entire closet, and I never really had any answers. I just knew something was up.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know, I had my daughter when I was 19. So I had been sharing custody. I had full custody, but her dad would just kind of pick her up whenever. So it was we could communicate
Yeah.
and
But
everything seemed fine. But she had a step parent that was involved. And so it was just weird.
hmm.
So my son ended up going with my ex at the time. They went and stayed at like a beach house. This was just out of nowhere. And I remember there were people that came to my house. These were my daughter's uncle, which was very weird, showed up at the house, and then my ex. And they were all just standing in the living room. And it was just a very awkward moment. And I knew something big was happening, but I just didn't know what it was. I even had phone calls from people that told me, Kelly, they're fixing to take your kids. And I
Jeez.
was like, based off of what? Like,
Yeah.
what is this about? I knew that we were going through a divorce, but I never once imagined that my kids were going to be taken.
Right.
So
And
about
why
a
would
week,
you?
right. And so about a week later, my daughter, she was 12 years old, and me and her were really close, but I was struggling with my mental health, obviously. And so I know that there were things that I needed to work on. And she had come to me and she said, Mom, I think I want to go live with Dad for a little while. And it was like it was just this light bulb moment. I realized what was happening. And I told her, I said, if you move, if you leave, I will never see you again. I didn't have proof of that, but that was
Yeah.
my intuition telling me that I was not going to see my daughter again. I was dealing with two different families,
Mm-hmm.
and what they expected me to do. So I told her, I said, if that's what you want, if that's what you truly want to do and you feel like you're going to enjoy being over there, at that point, I let her make up her mind. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
But there was also a side of me that knew I needed to get better. Um, but that still is not permission to take somebody's child and keep them away.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
We should all be
and
allowed to work on our mental health without
yeah, I think that that
retaliation for
should
that.
be the first thing that they
Yeah.
do is, there should be more compassion involved, I guess. But I remember it was like a week later after that, I was really struggling. I was like, nobody was calling me. I was just sitting in this house alone by myself. And I remember getting the papers, and the accusations were just horrible because every single thing I was being accused of, I did with him. So I was really confused. I was really just in a state of shock.
Like very
And
old things that
yeah,
happened
it
in the
was just a
past. And yeah.
12 years worth of information that I was like, how, like, that I knew how bad it could get, but I think that there was so much fear in me because I was like, they're taking my children. I never even thought about the fact that, okay, well, he's doing these things too, and I need to fight this fight. That's how broke down I was.
Yeah. But it kind
And
of sounds like it was kind of a setup then. Did they put that in her mind to say to want to move to him and kind of coach her to that?
they they had been planning that for
Yeah.
months, especially for the people that had called me. These were people that I went to high school with that I didn't hang out with that were calling me and telling me, Kelly, there is a big rumor going around that you're fixing to lose your kids. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't believe it.
Hmm.
So it took me by surprise. But here we were a couple weeks out. And it was really weird because once my daughter told me that, the last time I saw her was that day, and she didn't take her bags. She didn't take her clothes. She didn't take any of her things.
Hmm.
Her dad came and picked her up I think he picked her up from school. Um, I'm so blurry about it, what happened at the first time that she left. I just know that she just was gone. Like she had
Wow.
dance, she was still in school. Um, Actually, this was right after she had gotten back from summer school, or not summer school, but her summer visitation with him. So she'd already been with him, and
Yeah.
they had been prepping her from there. I
Hmm.
completely forgot about that. But yeah, so I was like, well, then she's going to be back. Like, I'm going to get my visitation with her. She's going to be back on the weekends. Like, it was just understood that I had 50-50.
Hmm.
There was no custody agreement that we were already going by a 50-50 joint custody agreement. She had been in my primary care, but
Yeah.
I just assumed that there was an understanding there because I was still
Yeah.
being blindsided by what was happening. And
Well, and you had that with your other child's dad. You never had that issue, right? And so
right,
now all of a sudden, so you've trusted that and it's worked. And all of a sudden, this,
yeah,
yeah.
it was so bad because they were pretending to be I was the problem, and that
Hmm.
they absolutely had, no problem whatsoever. Like they were
Yeah.
perfect. And that
Like,
was what was so
yeah.
frustrating is it takes two to tango. There's two sides to every story. But
Yeah.
my son was 5 at the time, and he ended up staying with his dad. And there were about 2 weeks that went by where I couldn't even handle minute to minute. Like I was absolutely devastated
Yeah.
because I was already struggling,
Hmm.
and then they took my children.
Right.
And I remember he came home it was like close to his birthday, and he was sleeping in the bed, and we woke up the next day, and my power was cut off and my water was cut off. And we didn't have any type of agreement. We were just starting to hire lawyers. Like, to
Yeah.
me, I was like, how are they even able to do this?
Hmm.
And the lawyer that he had, from what I understood and from the people that I had talked to, they said, this is what they do. They break you down mentally and emotionally so that you don't have the will to fight. And it worked.
Yeah, it
It
does.
worked. I hired a lawyer that was one of the best. And if anybody could have gone up against his lawyer, it was going to be this guy. And
Hmm.
he literally came to me and said, I'm going to give you your retainer back.
Oh,
because I don't think you want to fight this fight. And it was really because I was so exhausted at that point.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was in a really weird situation because I had two different children from two different dads. And in the state of Florida, one lawyer can't represent you for both. You have to hire two separate lawyers. So
Okay.
here I was having to make the decision of which child to fight for, which no mother should ever be in the middle of that. But
Yeah.
these two men had gotten together and they planned it. Like they thought out a plan and executed it as perfectly as they did. And the whole
Yeah.
entire time I was just oblivious.
That's just,
I had
that's
no idea.
crazy. Yeah, because it'd been working, your co-parenting relationship prior. And all of a sudden, now this child's dad, who's the one taking your daughter and creating the alienation, and then is like getting the other dad on board now, when yet there was no issue before with that. So
Right.
your whole world just got flipped.
Yes. Yes. And it got so much worse after that. I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but it's like when they don't have a way to paint you as a bad parent, like, because that's what it was for me. I had never been to rehab. I had never been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I had been put on multiple different medications for the different diagnosis that I had, and that's what they used. They went and hired all of my doctors to testify against me.
Wow.
They brought in a psychologist and had an evaluation done on me, but he didn't have to take an evaluation. How does that happen?
Yeah.
They had, I remember the psychiatrist, the child psychiatrist that came in, gave a testimony that my children were safe and
With
said
you.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, that they were safe with me, that he had seen me with my son. And he was like, I think that he really loves his mother and he's perfectly safe and he's fine. He walked out of the room and came back in and completely retracted the testimony and said, no, I don't believe that he needs to be with her. So there
And
were
did
so
he
many different
did he
things
walk
happening.
out with them, like on their side? So there could have been communication with them because he was testifying for them since it was their deal
Right.
to get him to come, evaluate you and try and use that against you, which it didn't work because you were deemed safe. There was nothing, for his side to use. So it's like they find that they take a break, walk out, and
How convenient.
yeah, how convenient. So,
Yeah, this doctor was in his late 80s, so he was already really old, and you could already tell that he was kind of there were things that he was forgetting, but from what I understood, this was a common doctor that testified for this particular lawyer and
they had that
always worked in
relationship.
her. Yeah, and they
Yeah.
had their offices were right next to each other. So,
Yeah.
how convenient.
Yeah. And always having those connections. Like they choose their personal connections knowing it'll work for their side. And that
Yeah.
unfortunately happens a lot. I mean, people
Yeah.
obviously use their personal, relationships, professional relationships of who they're close to and who they can side with them.
Absolutely. Like I've had many, of my friends tell me, and these are people that are lawyers. They're like, you just have no idea how many of these lawyers are talking about their clients behind their back and making deals that
Yeah.
you don't even know about.
Or like
So, and that's
out on
obviously,
the yeah, out on the golf course talking about the case
yeah,
and stuff. You're not, yeah, not supposed to, but of course, like they're human too, that they have these relationships. They're going to talk about things that happens. And so, which unfortunately, having certain connections and close relationships can work against you and they can use that.
yeah, yeah,
Where did it
absolutely.
go from there then? Did he keep continue keeping your daughter and then just trying to twist situations or paint you as unfit and keep her from you?
So with my daughter, she was 12. She had a stepmom. She was really probably the hardest part of it. The stepmom did not like me. And so imagine not liking your child's real mom. Every time you get angry, every time you have a judgment or criticism, she was seeing me and my child because my child is identical to me. She has the same mannerisms. We talk the same. We look identical. And so I remember it because now me and my daughter are close, but she had told me, she was like, Mom, you don't understand. Like, they are it's almost like they're punishing me because they hate you.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
that is what narcissists do. It's not about the child with them. They retaliate on the child because of their hate towards you, or they, try to, you're their target. Like, and
yeah,
having the child is like the way to hurt you. It's not because they want the child or because they're really taking care of the child. It's to target you and have this control and power over you. And
yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
common narcissist. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really, a lot of it was with her. And of course, I think she just convinced everybody else, just from stories I've been told. I don't know how true it is. I just know what little that my daughter has told me, because I don't really, it's past us now. We've actually been able to move forward, me and her, and that's all that matters. But there
Yeah.
are a lot of things that are coming to the surface that I just wasn't seeing at the time. There were times that I went out to their house, like on her birthday, because I should have been getting her 50-50, but you can't go to law enforcement and enforce that. They
Yeah.
can't do that, which is bizarre to me. If you have orders, they should be able
Yeah.
to enforce that, but they can't because there's
Yeah.
obviously a lot more that goes into it. But I would go to their house just to give her a birthday card or a birthday gift, and they would be like, she's not here. I would call, and I remember she told me that they took the phones out of the house.
Mm.
So she would sneak, she had a little iPod that she would listen to music, and she would sneak messages through that really late at night. And every now and then I would get a message from her. But they, because they did that, that is what really ultimately did me in. I ended up in ICU, fighting for my life because
Yeah.
I had just given up. Like, my daughter was my world. And there were so many other things that were happening and taking place. They were bringing my family into it. They didn't want my family around my children.
Mm.
Um, and it was really, really painful.
Yeah.
And to not be able to speak to your child, to not be able to have an influence on what they believe, to not have a say so on, you know, um, they were really hard on her about her schoolwork. And so she was just, not only had she lost her mom, but
Mm-hmm.
like her whole world had been
Yeah.
completely flipped upside down.
Uprooted and everything's different, and your mom is
Yeah.
no longer here. So that's a whole world of difference for a child to have to process and understand what is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't think they ever even gave her time to grieve. They never
Yeah.
even saw it that way. And
Of
that to
course
me
not.
is
Yeah.
evil. Like,
For them, it's a victory. They got,
yeah,
they win. They get the child and they get to have this power over you and paint you as this horrible person and kind of twist everything against you and enjoy doing that.
yeah, yeah. And it's eh, to be in ICU, you don't know if you're going to live to the next day.
Yeah.
And I had a family member reach out to them to tell them, and it was just their only question was, um, "Where's her bag?" Like, they needed a bag of clothes or
Oh
something.
my
I can't remember
gosh.
how it was, but there was never any concern. They didn't
Not
care.
not even like
No,
trying to come to the hospital with her to see you or
no.
even ask anything, or it's just so heartless and
Well,
devastating.
their excuse was, because my son did show up, but their excuse was they don't need to be in that type of environment. And it's like, can you imagine what that would do to a child if they found out their mom didn't make it
Yeah.
and they could have seen her?
Yeah.
There's so many moments like that in the story. It's just really, really sad.
Well, and what about just everyday life? People are in the hospital for all kinds of things. That
Yeah,
doesn't keep their child from seeing them or having, people there for them. So that's not
yeah,
an excuse.
yeah. There was definitely an element of evil. It was very insidious. It was something that, um, I could not get people to understand the pain of losing someone that's still alive.
Yeah.
Like
Grieving a live child. Yeah.
that, and then on the other side of it too, like, she was grieving me as well, and just the lies that were told, and telling her that I gave her up, that I didn't want her, and I had papers that proved I had 50-50, and it was
Yeah.
like, you have to have money to fight that stuff. Even if you have paperwork that
Yeah.
says you have 50-50 custody, if they want to withhold that child from you, they can do it,
Yep. And that's
especially if they have
exactly,
pull.
yeah.
It can be
And
done.
and they learn
It
they
happens
can
every
do
day.
that. Yeah. And they learn
Yeah.
they can do that because when they do it and then seeing what the process is, how cops don't do anything, oh, you have to hire a lawyer, go back through court, blah blah blah, and it's a long process. It's it's like the system is teaching them to do these things that they can do it instead of abiding to protect the parent-child relationship and protect, what's in the order supposed to help the parent relationship. And
Yeah.
no, it's not.
I remember I got real brave one night because I was like, I've got to do something. I don't want my child to think that I've given up fighting, because that's all the evidence that she had is mom gave up. She doesn't want to fight for me.
Yeah, only
And I
their
remember
side. Yeah.
right, and I sent a text and I said, if you don't want blue and red lights showing up at your front door, I hope you have her call me. And I got a phone call. And it was
Really?
just
Wow.
I got a phone call, but it was very short and limited. But it was like my little moment of victory where I finally made them feel how they had been making me feel. But
Yeah.
that came at a cost because it got even worse after that. But yeah,
Great. So they used that to kind of then just torment you more, and
yeah,
they were mad about it.
that became all of a sudden I was not stable. And I had my son, I think at this point, I think he was 6 years old when this happened. So it was not too long after I had taken him to school because he was still with me half of the time. So I had
Okay.
not gone through any type of emergency order yet. And he was with me, and little boys forget to put on underwear and socks. It happens. I do believe that my son was dealt with sensitivity issues, and it was just one of those mornings he didn't have time to get ready, and so he threw on a pair of tennis shoes and he threw on his little shorts and his shirt, and I took him to school. And that was what triggered everything. They said that I wasn't taking care of him, that I wasn't sending him in socks and shoes, or socks and
Jeez.
underwear, and that I didn't care. And I went back up to the school, I think it was that day, to take him lunch, and the school wouldn't let me on property.
Oh,
And I got back to my apartment and had an ex parte delivered to me that basically said that they were getting him on an emergency order.
wow, that
So,
fast.
yeah, it was back to back to back. And that was the next process where they ended up, I had been texting my ex at the time back and forth. And obviously, there's heated arguments. And as somebody who was pushed out of my home, I didn't get any type of, I basically was barely living. I was angry. Like after a
Yeah.
while, I started realizing what was happening to me, and I got angry one night. And so they had me picked up and arrested for, it's called cyber stalking. If you text too many words within an hour,
What? Wow.
they they picked me up. I was in my apartment. I had already taken my son to school. Excuse me. So I'd taken him to school. It was that following Monday when I got to a school and realized what had happened. So this was all in a matter of like 3 days. And they showed up at my apartment, and I was really calm. And they were like, "We need to see your phone." And I was like, "Sure, it's in there." And I'm just standing there, and they're like, "Well, you have to come with us." I had a
I
brand
just
new phone.
can't. I just can't believe it really irks me because us, like, things, they set things up, they create these issues to paint us as unfit and dangerous or crazy and mentally psychotic, and yet they are the ones that will do illegal things. They break the orders, they do all kinds of things. You do the smallest little thing and that's what you get arrested for, or that's what you get
Yeah,
reprimanded for. And it's like, why
you're under a microscope.
yeah, why aren't you handling what they're doing though? They all this time so much more severe, and how dare you text too many words in an hour?
Yeah.
I
I was
just
blown away by that.
yeah.
I remember sitting in the back of the car. They put cuffs on me, which I was not an endangerment to anybody. And I was just sitting there, and I was eerily calm. And they were in the cop car next to me with the phone looking through it, and they didn't have anything. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Even the messages that we were sending back and forth were not mean. I was
Well,
just
and he
angry.
responded sometimes. Did he respond to
Yeah,
some of it? So it
yeah,
wasn't even just you. It was he was responding. That's a
yeah.
conversation. That's not even, hey, she's harassing me too much this hour. But oh yeah, I'm responding though. I'm having a conversation with her.
Well,
Well,
I know I was angry, and I guess maybe that's what scared him or something. I don't know what triggered everything. I just know that they were looking for anything to take me on, and they
yeah.
found it.
Yeah.
And I
That's yeah.
remember like being in, even in the jail when they were like, "We're not going to let you go unless you plead guilty," and I was like, "But I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
Like,
to what?
I didn't harm anybody. I was They
Right.
got me on cyber stalking. I wasn't stalking anybody. I was literally responding to my ex-husband about my child. And so he
See,
just didn't like the way I did it. And he
yeah.
had the connections and he made it happen.
See, that's these things happen. These, unfortunately
Very
too
common.
common. Yeah, too common and it's insane. But it just makes me think. So like court orders even will have it in the court order provisions on the parents, right? To like the
Right.
cyber stuff to not, especially if you're in an active court case, you are not supposed to publicly divulge, on the internet, like, or
Right.
whatever, certain things, or, make sure you're not doing disparaging remarks against the other parent. And so, for instance, my son's dad, it was very, throughout the last, 15 years off and on, he was very public. He would post things, and not always my name, but he would make TikTok videos. His wife, whichever, he's had two wives, so each one did this alongside him. They would post TikToks during the court case, though, and like say what's go and twist it and say I'm doing all these things, and there's provisions of that in the court order, and they did nothing. But yet here you are texting and a conversation, and you get in trouble for that.
Yeah. Well, like we didn't even have an order in place. That was what was so crazy is
Yeah.
they took him based on, there was multiple different things, and it goes much, much deeper and it gets a little bit dark. And I know that that's more for the book, because I am writing one, but
Yes.
they had filed this ex parte with no due process. I never got to defend. I still, to this day, never got to speak my side of the story. We did
Awful.
end up going to one thing where we were able to like share, but it was all me defending myself. There was never an opportunity for me to say, well, he was also doing these things. These are
Like to
some of the things
provide
that,
evidence and really show
right.
what's going
None of that
on.
ever happened for me. And it was a 5 year conflict, and it never got in front of a judge. And I know that's
Like the
bizarre to
court
me.
case kept
Yeah,
going on and prolonging,
yes.
and yeah.
More evaluations, more drug tests, but everything was just on me. There was never anything, it was not a
Right.
fair type of situation. And for somebody like me who didn't have anything, fighting something like that costs a lot of money. And
Yeah.
so whoever has the money wins.
Yeah.
That's really whoever has the money and the connections,
Yeah,
they
it
win.
is. And I find it kind of, I don't know if you've gotten these comments over time where someone might be like, just go get a lawyer, just go to court. I've in the past been told those things, and I understand, people aren't coming from a mean place. They're coming from a good
Right.
place saying that, if it's, a friend, support, whatever. But it's not easy by any means to just get a lawyer and go to court. And it
It's not easy,
becomes,
and sometimes it's
yeah,
more detrimental.
yeah, and
It can.
traumatizing. I mean, it causes more trauma. It
Yeah.
takes you through a horrifying journey sometimes.
Yeah, especially because right now what we're dealing with in the family court system and what I think, things that have to change. One of the things is they have to be trained on coercive control. They are not trained. They
Yeah,
don't know what it looks like. They don't know. Did he hit you? No, he did worse. Like he controlled my entire life. He controlled the money.
yeah,
He controlled the way I thought. He controlled the way I looked at myself. He controlled how other people looked at me. That is
yeah,
criminal. That belongs in criminal court. And until
yeah.
we have somebody that can recognize what coercive control really is and have every single person involved trained on it, like that, those types of things have to happen.
Yeah. I was on a podcast the other night, and I was kind of touching on that as well. I also felt that way where it's and that's one thing why I felt crazy to say it. Like, no one can understand this, because to
Right.
sit there and be like, we're not together, there's distance, we're not in a relationship, but yet he's controlling my thoughts, he's controlling my life, he's controlling all these aspects. And so
Hmm.
for someone on an outsider perspective, it might be hard to be like, how could that happen if he's not with you? But they do. It's psychological, it's emotional, it's the coercion, they find so much. I mean, my son's dad did that. It's like they stalk and they find every little thing about me, and they use that and they weaponize things, and they use my
Hmm.
son as well to twist everything and then retaliate on him. And it's just awful. It's nonstop.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you bring that up because there's a couple of things that I think we need to start looking at. And I'm in this place now. I don't want to take advice or any type of recommendations from somebody who's never experienced what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And what I do right now, like I used to trust doctors, I used to trust therapists, but now I'm in this place where I feel like I have more to offer because of my lived experience. And I think that if these judges are going to be up there making these long-term decisions for our entire family, there needs to be some sort of experience there. And I know that's not, that's a hard thing to make happen, but there needs to be somebody in the court that can shed light who's
Yeah.
experienced this. And look at how many they have to pick from because there are so many women that are going through it right now.
Yeah.
I've even thought about, I was accepted into a coaching program where we basically work with lawyers to shed light on this is what's really happening. You can't see it, but there's
Yeah.
a pattern of behavior here. And if you think that it's going to stop when two people separate, you're mistaken. It's going to
Yeah.
continue, it's going to get worse.
Yeah. That sounds like a good program. I hope that becomes more common, I guess, because it
It
is,
will.
it's, I mean, I can't believe that more people, or at least to have someone be appointed to a case, whether that's an amicus or a middle ground of something, to have someone that is appointed to a case when it deals with, narcissism, parental alienation, these type of cases, that at least a first step of being required to have some sort of training or some sort of knowledge. I mean, it
Yeah.
blew my mind going through cases where I found out that that's not required. And
Well, this is another really interesting aspect that I feel like people need to hear, and that is we have guardian ad litems that are in place. And I know that until we do some sort of family court reform, this is what we're dealt. Okay. We have a guardian ad litem who is a lawyer. They are not trained in psychology. And even if they are, what they don't understand, and this is something I'm dealing with right now, is when you have a sensitive child, an autistic or ADHD child,
yeah.
neurodivergent, they mask. So I had a gal tell me to my face, she said, it's interesting. I like to visit in the home because I can see how the child interacts with the parent. And that bothered me so much because a child who is abused is going to be afraid to
Yes.
tell somebody of authority about what the parent is doing. They
Yeah.
mask and they pretend like they're okay. And if you don't know that,
Right.
you're throwing a very sensitive child into a really bad dynamic. That to me is I cannot understand how they have people that are in place that are supposed to
Yeah.
be representing children that have no idea
Well,
what that really looks like.
and parents like that, like my son's dad, for example, he had cameras in his house. I mean, hidden cameras everywhere. My son had shown me on FaceTime before and flipped the camera and was secretly showing me, and the red light was on. Like they were always watching him, always recording. If they weren't sitting right next to him, which they usually were right there, but if they weren't and they had to be up for a second or whatever, there was a camera, and he had to follow script. And he couldn't tell me things going on in his life. He couldn't talk about school. He couldn't tell me all kinds of things, and he had to just be quiet, and he would just stare. And so to think like the amicus or gal goes into the house and does interviews, and it's like there's all kinds of things they can put into place to coach
Hmm.
this child, manipulate this child. They're living in survival. They're not going to tell you that because they'll get in trouble for telling you that.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that it blows my mind. They need to be more trained, and I think there has to be a breaking point, and I think that's what's so incredible about this movement of women that are coming out and sharing their stories is you don't know what's happening unless you talk about it. And
yeah.
so that's why I love talking about this stuff because I may never be able to see a change, but at least
Hmm.
my story can have some sort of effect on how the
Yeah.
courts view what's really happening behind closed doors.
Yeah, and it
Um,
has to start somewhere. This, even for, like you said, maybe we don't see it in our lifetime, but this is what starts to change for future generations. This is hopefully
yeah,
can prevent or at least strengthen the system somehow in these
yeah.
sort of cases. It I could talk forever on this stuff too. And I'm still, for me, I mean, I know I've worked on healing. I know you've done great. You've worked on healing. You're a coach yourself to help others. And so I still have, obviously it's a journey to continue always working on healing, and it's like here I am trying to, I'm not normally a public person. This is new to me. This year I started deciding to speak out and be public, so I know how hard it can be,
Yeah.
because I felt silenced and shut up, for years. So it's definitely it can be a work in progress to do that. And I still, even when I talk about it, I can talk about it, but I do have that like PTSD from
Yeah.
the abuse, from the alienation, from all the trauma. And so I can get shaky, I can get trembly, but I'm trying to push through it and do better at speaking
I think
out
you're doing
because
amazing.
thank you.
You have
Well,
no
you are
idea.
too. You,
I remember being in that place though. It's like
mm-hmm,
when I hear you say those words, I get choked up and emotional because people really have no idea like how hard it is when you've been silenced your entire life. And usually you're with a partner who silences you because you were silenced as a child. It
yeah,
goes so deep. And so here you are, in this battle for your children and you're being, asked to speak up. And
mm-hmm,
it's like the one thing that you want to do, you can't.
yeah.
And so it takes a lot of work and just taking the steps to do what you're doing is incredible. And so I think you're an inspiration. So,
Oh, thank you. I think the same about you. I mean, you've battled so much, and on not only the alienation, but personal, like medical wise, and that's really draining and exhaustion. And the alienation is so, that is, it's so grieving to have your
yeah,
child ripped from you, even though your child is alive. It's a grief because they're not in your life, they're taken from you. And so just one thing after another, like stacked and stacked, it's so hard to pull yourself up out of that because it's just like breaking you down more and more, and that's what they want to do. And
yeah,
so to
yeah.
be here on the other end like you are, and you're so healthy, you're sitting there just speaking out and wanting to help others, and that is truly amazing, and I really appreciate that you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the way that I see it, and when it happened to me, and I tell this story a lot, is the first night I was in my home without my children, I had a supernatural experience. I knew God was doing something with what was happening to me because my
Yeah.
heart could not bear the pain that I was in. And that was the very beginning for me. It was like I was being presented with this thing, and I could see it all unfold. I could see what's happening right now. I could
Yeah.
see the healthcare industry being exposed, public school system being exposed, the family court system being exposed. I could see all these things happening, but I was like, what does this have to do with me?
Hmm.
And I knew that I was meant to do something with the story.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how hard it was going to be or how long it was going to take. So I was just
Right.
kind of, it was like, without God, there's no way I could have found my way through this. And that's the reason why I talk about the stuff that I talk about, because something this painful and insidious has to be spiritual.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has to be, you
That's
know?
it's so cool to talk to other people like who have experienced this. There's a lot of common, ground and similarities in our stories, and for you to say like I had this pivotal moment. So my book, I also have always relied on God. Like I felt my strength through God, and that's for me personally as well. And so just years ago, at one of my lowest points, I remember, and it's always stood out in my head for some reason. I remember having this moment where, being at your lowest, like I just felt like I couldn't live. I mean, I want to live, I want to make it, but how?
Yeah.
I don't know how to get up out of this. And I remember thinking, when I get there, when I get to that point, I will get there however I need to. And when I do, I will say that God did that. God
Yeah.
helped me. And so I did. And I was actually kind of surprised this year because my last case was even worse of what happened. That should have broken me. And it was devastating, but I had been working on healing for a while already, and I'd been having a therapist who is actually lived experience and has knowledge on that. And so I was finding some more support that helped, but it's just to come up out of that. So I ended up writing my book, and I remembered that moment. And so each chapter has Bible verses, and I do make sure to point that out because I was like, I made a promise with God years ago. And I know that might sound crazy to someone, but it's like that
Yeah.
stood out in my mind. And I was like, I am definitely gonna, make sure that's known that I
Yeah.
felt brought up from that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it has been for me. And at first, I was kind of, when you're dealing with people that want to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Deconstruct when it comes
Yeah.
to being raised in a religious environment. I was raised Baptist, but I went to church alone. I didn't go with my family, and so I had a little bit of that. But like, um, I've always known, even as a little girl, that something like this was I was going to be using it for God's glory. I've always known that, and it doesn't always look like you think it's going to look.
Right.
And I props to you because some people do lose that path, and it's a really intense experience. I talk a lot about ideation too because when a mother is removed or when children are taken from a mother, like the things that our bodies go through and our minds go through is the most pain that we can ever experience.
Yeah, because
So
you carried that child. That's
yeah,
a part of you, and as a parent too, they kind of, I don't want to say like become your whole self identity because we're individuals, but I mean, as a
right,
parent, that's your job to protect
yeah,
and care for your child. So it is like your identity in a sense. So as alienation, it's like your identity is ripped from you as well. And it breaks down so many different levels of a person, I feel like.
yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying. It has to be spiritual. You cannot make sense of it unless you look at it from that perspective, and that's honestly what saved my life.
Yeah.
If I was not able to come up higher with my perspective and look at it in a much larger view instead of just my scenario, and I started looking and listening to other people, I started looking at the system as a whole. Then I started talking to God about it, and it was like, it all started to make sense. And I talk a lot about this on my page because it is multifaceted.
Hmm.
It's not just this one thing. It's a whole experience, and I really think that like anything that's incredibly painful, something really amazing and beautiful is going to come out of it. I really do believe that. Like your
Yes.
book and just being, all of the women that are standing up for themselves. It's incredible to witness some of the women that I see online today. They're not
Yeah.
afraid to speak up and they're finally sharing their stories.
Yeah.
It's really
And
beautiful to witness.
I wish that it that would be the common way to do, because the victims are silenced by the abusers, that's or the narcissists, that's how it goes. And so typically, obviously it's hard to speak out, it's hard to talk about it, and they'll, if they know, they'll, you're always scared that they're going to retaliate, do more to you,
Yeah.
hurt you more. And I wish that, I know it's hard, but I wish it could be flipped where it's
Yeah.
like we normalize that the victim can speak out and we have support and we are here for them, because it's just so devastating, especially not to have any support while you're going through it. If you feel alone, that's so much harder on top of that. And so it'd be great if we have some more supportive communities to show people to, have people who have experienced similar things and get it and can be there and show that
Yeah,
care.
we do. We need some communities because I it's you can't pick up the phone or go online and look up how to heal from parental alienation. It's not
Yeah.
there. And
And I want
that's
that to be talked
what's,
about more too. And it is, I mean,
yeah.
we are a part of, Facebook groups that talk about it, but still, I hear from a lot of people, what's parental alienation? And even
Yeah.
though, since we've experienced it and we've probably searched and found these groups, people who haven't or don't think about it, there's so many people that haven't heard of it or even know what's going on. So just to reach
Well,
the general,
yeah, the thing about parental alienation, and I should have even mentioned this in the beginning. There's a woman that I follow. It's actually the woman that has the program, One Mom's Battle. Tina Swithin is her name. She explains how the actual phrase parental alienation came from a man who wanted to hide, or excuse me, was doing something negative, and he
okay.
needed a phrase for what women were doing to protect their children. So it's been flipped. So she
Oh,
said to be careful about using that. Now, obviously, people that don't know, they don't know.
yeah, I
But
didn't know
she
that.
said use maternal separation. And it's just something maybe you could dive into because I don't know enough about it to talk about it.
Yeah.
The guy who created it, I don't even know his name. I just know that when she told me that, she said, I need you to understand this. If you're going to be in this program, that there are a lot of groups and phrases that are being created that you think that you're supporting a good cause when
Mm,
there's a hidden agenda behind it. So that
yeah.
gives me something to dive into and learn more about.
Yeah, and I think that's so great to because these are like these common words we don't know until we actually research more or try to take a deeper
Yeah.
dive and get more knowledge. So it's always interesting to learn more
Be a
and
really good
have
podcast
resources.
episode.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about all the terms and what they truly mean and which one is
Yes.
correct.
Be
That would
careful.
be that would be cool. It's
Yeah.
good knowledge to learn
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. She
So
said use maternal separation, and I forget. I still use parental alienation,
yeah,
but
I did too
it's
because
really,
we're used to it. I think
yeah.
it's
I've been using
just
it for years. So,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
also don't want to support somebody who made up a lie either, and
yeah,
especially if it's connected to the patriarchy, then I got
yeah,
a problem with it.
yeah, yeah. Something to dive into and look more into. I guess
Yeah.
before we wrap up soon, where is it today for you with your kids? You did mention that you have reconnected with your daughter more and have a better
Yeah.
relationship now, but
Well, as anybody who has gone through the process, there are phases to it.
yeah,
And as they grow up, different phases are harder than others. And I have a lot of people that ask me, my daughter's in her teenage years and I'm really struggling. And I always, tell people this is how it was for me. But with my daughter, I didn't speak to her from 12 to 16. So
okay,
she was going through some of the hardest times of her life without me around. And
yeah,
whenever I finally got in contact with her at 16, we there was a lot of anger there,
yeah,
and I was still not better. And I think she kind of knew that. But just us being around each other was very healing. And so then we took another break, another couple of years, and honestly, God told me this is when in deep meditation, I was asking, what is it that I can do to change this? And it was, you are the mothership. You carry their DNA. And when you heal your body, you heal their body.
mhm,
And when I started to do the work on myself and I was really doing it, not just talking about it, because I had a habit of talking and not doing,
yeah,
I was sharing my story online, and my daughter was watching, and she knew. She could see that that was not the same person that she remembered, and she knew I was doing the work. And so she came home. Like, she eventually, just one day, I think she had had enough of the lies,
mhm,
and she had a very honest experience with her father to kind of see who he was.
yeah.
And I think that it was that moment she was like, it wasn't her. And she picked up the phone and she said, I need you. And I was obviously
Oh,
there in a heartbeat. So we have a great
wow.
relationship.
That's so great.
We text every day. She was really struggling for a really long time.
Yeah.
But I will say this to anybody who has a child that they're waiting to come home. I'm going to try and say it without crying, because
Mm,
your healing will depend on how well they heal. If you can do the work now, you can be that safe space and home for
yeah.
that child, because they're going to need you. And then it's not going to happen overnight and it's going to be painful. But imagine being calm and present and peaceful because you've done the work, so that when your child does come home,
Yeah.
you can be that for them. And that's what I was for her. Like, she's not the same. She was really struggling when we first started talking, and she's doing amazing now. So
Wow.
it's really, really
That's
amazing.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. I completely agree with what you said. And it's again not an easy process to work on healing and get to that point where you are right now, but
Takes
it
time.
really, yeah, it does. It does. So no, so anyone who's going through it, don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself grace.
No.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's not an easy task. But it's definitely necessary. Like you said, you want to be this healthy, safe space parent for when your child does come around at
Yeah,
whatever age
absolutely.
that might be. And
Yeah,
so
I
it's
I
important.
always tell people, I'm like, no pressure, because it'll happen when it's meant to happen, but it's just to give people hope, because that's what it was for me. I knew that if I could just work through whatever it is that I was dealing with, then I could make sense of it all, and that's just how I
Yeah.
cope. Obviously, I want to understand things, but yeah, she's doing great, and my son and he's in college, so
Okay.
I think you have to understand that when they're certain ages, or if
Yeah.
they're away to college, or if they have a really intense relationship or something like that, you're just going to have to learn to step back a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did, is I stepped back and I just waited patiently, and I know it's not easy.
Yeah. And that's
But that's
any
what works for me.
parenting. Yeah, any parenting relationship, they get to those ages and they're like, we don't want our parents as much. So that's normal. But
Yeah.
do you feel like your daughter do you know if she felt like she was living in survival mode with her
Uh,
dad then through all that? And she was prime age too for the brainwashing and manipulation and to
yeah,
really take effect on her.
she definitely dealt with a lot, and this was because of the step parent. So that's why I
Oh,
wish we would talk more about how step parents, um, they don't have that connection with the child, and if they have animosity towards the biological parent, how that can play out, because
yeah.
all she was getting was projections from this woman who didn't like me,
Yep.
who had whatever opinion of me, and she took it out on her. So yeah, she was in fight or flight the entire time,
Yeah.
and when she finally got out, she hit rock bottom.
Hmm.
She ended up moving to another state, and they just kind of dropped her there with nothing, and
Wow.
just like it was just, that was it. And
Jeez.
yeah, she went through a period of time where it was like she hit rock bottom too. And
That's so
if
sad.
I had not had the perspective that I had, and I didn't have, um, just to be able to offer her, hey, I've been here. Like, I
Yeah.
really think that's what helped her the most. But yeah, they're struggling, and they're living in this situation where, like,
Hmm.
their safety in their home, they don't
Yeah.
have it anymore.
Yeah. And it's so, again, that's the unfortunate reality too. Even when a court case ends, it doesn't end for the child. The child, if they're still there in that narcissist environment, they are learning those behaviors and being treated usually like abuse or retaliated on because of that hate for us,
Yeah.
and that parent is taking it out on them. And so it's something else I wish could, something be done better through the court system to know that this is a long-term effect. It's not just right here and right now, and this
Yeah.
is forever affecting the child.
Yeah, I think the best advice I could give somebody who is dealing with people that are like that is, don't react.
Yeah.
Man, they want that reaction, and they feed
Mhm.
off of it. And it's the hardest thing in the world to do when you've been
Yeah.
through what you've been through, and you're dealing with a CPTSD. Um, like, it is so hard not to react. Everything in your body wants to react. And when I finally got to a place where I didn't, I feel like they backed up a little bit.
Yeah.
But everybody's different. I just know that's what worked for me. So
Yeah.
I think just trying to limit how angry and upset you get, because they just love it.
Yeah. And that is true. That's part of their, trait behavior. They want that attention. It's like they thrive
Feed
off.
off of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a
So,
vampire.
yeah. So before we do go here, I want to know, I know you're working on a book, so maybe eventually I can give an update when you publish a book. I look forward to that.
Yeah, I need
And
some
then,
tips.
yeah, oh gosh. No, I don't even, I never considered myself a writer before. I mean, something just sparked inside me this passion after
Oh,
the fourth court case. And that's, just going through all that and coming to this end, like, I did it for me, first of all, to try and, I felt silenced. I felt like my voice was taken all these years. I felt just, no one understood. And so I did it to kind of, in a sense, take my control back. I want my life back.
Oh,
I do not
absolutely.
want to give him that. And so that was one that started going into it. But I still don't consider myself this like great writer, but yet I am writing here. But
Hey, you're doing
yeah.
things that a lot of people don't have the courage to do. And with mine, I've sat down to write so many times, but my trauma really got in the way and stopped me. But
It
now I'm in
can.
a place where it's flowing, and like
Yeah.
I can remember 10 years ago, there's no way in hell I would be able to talk about what
Yeah.
I've been talking about.
No,
And
me
now
too.
that I
Yeah.
can talk about it without sweating and crying, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely in a place where it's time to write again for sure. And you inspired that, so
Good.
thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. I appreciate that so much. And second, you being a coach, I don't know the full extent here. I know you'd be great for people with, because you're really targeting the parental alienation, your lived experience, and people need that, like we mentioned earlier. Do you have a website or do you have anything that people could find you or reach out to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, so I'm at healingwithkellynicole.com. That's where my website is right now. I am
Okay.
moving it, but I own that domain, so that's what it'll be under consistently. I
Okay.
have some guides that I can offer people on my Instagram page, but I do have a program, and it's really about the identity wound. It's
Okay.
understanding that deep wound that we have as a child and how that can kind of progress over time and how you end up in these toxic relationships. And I go really, really deep into it. So I do have a program for that. But so far, yeah, I think that in order to really to create a lot of change, I feel like you have to go to the root of the problem. And that's really what I love doing. But yeah, my website is
Yeah.
healingwithkellynicole.com.
Okay, and that's just Kelly for Kelly,
Yeah.
right? Because I know
Yeah.
I few spellings sometimes, but okay, healingwithkellynicole.com.
Yep. That's me.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad to give that resource out there for people who might be, looking for something or someone to help them through it, and you'd be a great resource for that then.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I really appreciate you being here today. You shared so much. You were, came on here and opened up about your story, which I know will help a lot of other people going through it who have also felt alone like we have before. So I really appreciate you
Yeah.
just
Thank
just
you for
looking
having
at,
me.
of course, and just seeing where you are today. It's amazing how to come up out of something so hard and devastating and breaking, and here you are being
Yeah, it can
amazing and
be
helping
done.
others. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
we just
can.
light the path for others because I know so many are going through it, and
Yeah.
that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Kelly. I really appreciate everything that you
Yeah,
shared today and being on here.
yeah,
So,
thank you. I appreciate it
yeah,
too.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to You Can't Break Us. If this episode spoke to you, subscribe and leave a review. Every voice matters. Every story counts. If you or someone you know has a story to share, email youcantbreakuspodcast@gmail.com to connect with me. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and never stop using your voice. Because no matter what they've tried to take from us,